Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, I'm going to make an effort to answer a question I see frequently in the comment sections of my videos. That is, I'm going to try to answer how to pass or how do I study for the ASVAB. Before I do that, though, I believe you need to have a basic understanding of what the ASVAB is. And so, in case you didn't know it already, the ASVAB stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, and in short, it's a multiple choice test that helps you identify which jobs in the military are the most suitable for you. What's more, your scores in 4 critical areas, notably arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, and mathematics knowledge, count toward what's called your Armed Forces Qualification Test score. And that score, above all else, says 1, you're either qualified to enlist in the U.S. military, or 2, you're not qualified to enlist in the U.S. military. As you can imagine, the ASVAB has more than just those 4 areas on it, and so I listed out those subtests here. And as you can see, they are general science, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, mathematics knowledge, electronics information, auto and shop information, mechanical comprehension, and assembling objects. As far as the minimum AFQT scores go, you can see that they are different for each branch, and what's more, they're different depending on your level of education. So for example, if you have a GED and you want to join the Air Force, you need to have a AFQT score of 65 or greater. Now, this information may not be the most up-to-date, so if you have any questions whatsoever about the current requirements to join the military, the best person to ask would be your local recruiter, and you should be able to find their contact information pretty easily online. All right, so now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this video. Notably, let's answer the question of how to pass the ASVAB. The very first thing you should do is attempt to get a baseline AFQT score for yourself. And there are 2 ways to go about doing it. The most obvious way to do it is to contact your local recruiter. And in doing so, they'll almost certainly make arrangements for you to take a mini practice test in his or her office. And at the end of that practice test, they're going to say your estimated AFQT score is this. Okay? Now, if for some reason your local recruiter doesn't do that for you, I also built a small website called ASVABapp.com. And if you go there, you can take a mini practice test as well, which should help you estimate your AFQT score. All right, and just to reiterate what was on the first slide, AFQT stands for Armed Forces Qualification Test score, and it's determined by your performance on the arithmetic reasoning, math knowledge, word knowledge, and paragraph comprehension subtest. All right, so as far as succeeding on the ASVAB goes, I've determined that there are 2 pathways to success. There's the first path and the second path. If your estimated AFQT score was 60 or better, I recommend that you follow path 1. If, however, your estimated AFQT score was 59 or below, I recommend that you follow path 2. Here's what path 1 looks like, and again, your AFQT score has to be 60 or better. It's very simple. There's only one phase to it. For a month or so, just take a minimum of 10 practice tests for each subtest. That is word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, arithmetic, reasoning, and math knowledge. Again, this should be enough to get you to pass the ASVAB with a fairly decent score. All right, and here's path 2. Again, this is if your AFQT score was 59 or below. So you want to start by doing 2 things. You want to spend time reviewing the basic math concepts that show up on the ASVAB. And at roughly the same time, you want to start building your vocabulary and your reading comprehension skills. That can take anywhere from a month to 3 months. But once you finish doing those two things, the very next thing you want to do is you want to start taking those practice tests. And I recommend that you take 10 of them for each subtest. Once you do these three things, you should contact your recruiter and say, hey, I'm ready to take the ASVAB. Can you make arrangements for that? Okay. All right, so let's talk about some resources that you can use to pass the ASVAB. And the first set of resources I'm going to talk about pertain mostly to the arithmetic, reasoning, and math knowledge subtest. The very first thing I want to mention is ASVAB study guides. Of course, I recommend that you get one. And for example, I recommend that you can get a copy of ASVAB For Dummies or Kaplan's ASVAB Prep Plus. While you can buy these, you could also go to your local library and check them out for free. So just keep that in mind. When the pandemic struck about a year ago, I started creating a study guide that I put for free on YouTube. And in that study guide, I attempt to cover all the basic math topics that show up on the ASVAB. And in addition, I also included 10 plus free practice tests. So if you want to get a study guide and at the same time use my playlist on YouTube to prepare for the ASVAB, that's a very good idea. I'm going to put a link to my study guide in the description of this video. Now, in addition to my study guide, I also created a website called asvabapp.com. There you can take more practice tests, and in addition, you can also download a copy of my reference sheet. My reference sheet is about 14 pages long, and it's basically a compilation of all the formulas you should consider memorizing for the math subtest of the ASVAB. Okay? All right, as far as paragraph comprehension and word knowledge go, I just want to mention that there are no shortcuts to improving on these subtests. It's going to take a few months to do so, in other words. For paragraph comprehension, resources are free and abundant. And to improve your paragraph comprehension, you can simply start reading your local newspaper every single day for a few months. Again, that will cost you almost nothing, and it's a great way to increase your reading skills. As far as word knowledge goes, I want to mention that these are words you should have learned in middle school and high school, but regardless of that, your goal should be to learn 1,000 new words before test day. And likewise, resources here are free and abundant. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I created a playlist called ASVAB Word Knowledge Practice Test, and it currently has 57 practice tests in it, which is a total of 912 words. All right, so let's talk about how to study. As you can see, the first tip says, study at a time when you are the most alert. So in psychology, there's this phenomenon called mood congruent memory. And what that says is this: if during a test, your mood is the same as when you studied, you should be able to access those things you put in your memory when you studied much more easily. Okay? Tip 2 says remove all distractions. Again, on any test that you take, you're not going to have access to your cell phone or anything like that. So it's best to study without those things in front of you. Tip 3 says spend between 30 minutes and 2 hours studying per session. Again, that just says spend enough time to learn the material, but don't overdo it. Fortunately enough, if you look at the study guide on my YouTube channel, you'll see that none of my videos are shorter than 20 minutes and none of them are longer than 2 hours. So if you just use my videos, you'll have no problem meeting that requirement. Tip 4 says actively take notes and work out problems on your own. Again, this is about improving your performance on the ASVAB. If you just watch my videos in which I work out problems, you're really not going to learn that much. What's more, I always say this in my recent videos: you should pause the video, attempt to work out the problem on your own, and then resume playing the video to check your solution. Again, you should be doing that as you watch these videos, or even if you're looking through your study guide. Tip 5 says, identify topics with which you struggle and work on learning them. And tip 6 says, be consistent. You have to be consistent as you study. That is to say, you're going to have to study between 3 to 6 times per week to see any results. All right, another question I see a lot in the comment section of my videos is this: should I get a tutor? And my answer to that is no. And I say that for 2 reasons. One, the ASVAB is a test of very basic math concepts. And in my view, you should be able to learn those concepts on your own, especially in light of the fact that I posted a playlist in which I discuss all those topics. And 2, believe it or not, the military does turn some people away. In a recent post on my community tab, I posted 2 articles in regard to some barriers to enlisting in the military. And I'll post those in the description of this video as well. Again, you can crush the ASVAB. You can get a 99, but you can still be turned away because of a weird medical condition that you may have. So again, in light of those 2 things, I do not recommend you pay for a tutor whatsoever. Okay? What about the other subtest? Again, on the very first slide, I discussed the AFQT subtest as well as the other subtest. Well, it's my personal opinion that you should try your best on every subtest on the ASVAB, but you should not spend time studying for the other subtests that don't affect your AFQT score. Why? Well, again, the ASVAB is a measure of your aptitude to do specific careers in the military. And I really think that the test does a good job of measuring that, and I don't want you to wind up in a position for which you're unqualified. So that's the short answer to that one. And that is it for this presentation. I hope you found it helpful. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. Konnichiwa.